Everybody, today we'll discuss about nosocomial infections, that is hospital-acquired infections. So it is a big burden for a patient who has got admitted in the hospitals. It increases the cost of the patient and the days of duration of stay in the hospitals. So where do you get the microorganisms from? That means NASA in HAI, that is hospital acquired infections or nosocomial infections, where the source is, that is from the patient's bone flora, cross infection from the medical personnel, cross infection from the patient to patient, hospital environment, that is inhaled objects like air, that is airborne infections, aerosols during coughing, during sneezing, during talking, and during IV fluids or during ventilators or ventilator equipment suction and water, that is outbreaks of GE, and dust, that is aerosols moving in the dust, and IV fluids and catheters, and wash towels and bedpans, which is used for to pass urinal stools. And another is very important is scopes, tweezers, endoscope, colonoscope, bronchoscopes. These are the source of the microorganisms. So, for example, in the air, like it spreads pneumonia when the patient coughs, aerosols will infect another patient, which is we are staying in another way. And water is water from the outside or within the hospital. That is from it leads to outbreak and leads to GE, and then IV fluids and catheters. So unsterile catheters and unsterile IV fluid keeping leads to infection and septicemia and bacteria. And wash towels and the frequent use of wash towels by different persons. For example, one doctor comes and washes his hands and he use the towel, and another doctor will come and he will carry the bacteria from the towel to patient. And bedpans, this is which is used for urine, stools, and endoscopes and ventilators. How the ventilators bed means improper sterilization of the ventilator equipment. Improper means the ventilator circuits. Once we have kept the ventilator for some patient means we have to, once we have removed the ventilator means after removing the ventilator we have to thoroughly sterilize the circuits of the ventilator. Otherwise, what happens without proper sterilization? If you keep that ventilator another patient, the bacteria which is present in the ventilator circuits will infect that patient and leads to another problem. And source of infection. The source of infection is divided into two. One is endogenous, another is exogenous. Endogenous means that is from within the patient or within the people. That is from whether it's from own flora, like the patient own flora may infect the patient tissue during the surgical operation or instrument manipulation. For that, the common example is urinary tract infection. If you won't thorough sterilize or you won't follow the proper instructions for sterilizing instructions during putting a catheter, that may lead to spread of bacterial flora from urethra to bladder to kidney, that leads to pyelonephritis. And the normal commensal of the skin and respiratory and GA and EG tract. So whenever there is a wound, when there is a cut wound over the skin, we have to thoroughly clean it and then later have to stitch it. Before that, you have to go for that you have to follow the universal guidelines for everything to prevent nosocomial infections. So if you want thorough clean infection, if you directly suture the wound, then it leads to skin infection. The normal skin commensal will penetrate and will go into the blood and causes bacteria. And exogenous, and that is same. That is exogenous from the patient itself, or staff member, or environment in the hospital, that is tables and other equipments. And environmental sources like environment of air, water, again cross infection from patient to patient, or doctor to doctor, or doctor to patient. That may be a suffering from a symptomatic or asymptomatic case. And the microorganisms. So there are two organs. One is the commensal, another is from the source. Commensal means it does not affect the source and it will spread to another and affect it. more prone to this hospital infections means it means the person who has got less immunity. That means a patient with a less immunity, like immunocompromised people, the patient with a who are chemotherapy, the patients who are malignancies and HIV patients, and the patient who has a chronic drugs are prone, like for example steroids. And this is one of the example where the multi-drug resistant Staphylococcus aureus and the bacteria. What is the organism that causes hospital-acquired infection, nosocomial infection? One is gram-positive, gram-negative, and another is viruses, another is fungi, another is protozoa. So one is first is gram-positive. The organisms are Staphylococcus aureus, Staphylococcus epidermidis, and Staphylococcus hemolyticus, and Streptococcus pyogenes, and the Clostridium tetani spores. The Clostridium tetani spores are more common, especially in a dusty environment, or they will carry from outside to the your emergency department or your wards by patients' foot shoes. Okay, Staphylococcus aureus, bacteria that colonize the skin, nose, and throat of the patient and hospital staff. They cause a wide variety of lung, bone, heart, and bloodstream infection, and frequently resistant to antibiotic. The hospital-acquired infections are almost 50% are due to Staphylococcus aureus. The isolates are drug resistant. The Clostridium tetani, especially in OT theaters, post-operative, they leads to clostridium infection and tetanus. That's why most of the times in elective cases we will give TT. And gram-negative organisms are E. coli, Pseudomonas. This Pseudomonas most commonly seen in UTIs. So E. coli and these species may colonize sites when the host defenses are compromised. That is what I said, immunocompromised. They are also highly antibiotic resistant. Pseudomonas species are often isolated in water and damp areas. They colonize the digestive tract of hospital patients. What is the specialty of this Pseudomonas? The ability to survive and multiply at low temperature, resistant towards the antibiotic and dispensing. And the viruses. The viruses commonly known as HIV, hepatitis B, and C. Transmitted to the blood products, and needle pricks and IV cannula, where you have to take universal precautions to prevent HIV, hepatitis B transmission. And another is viral diarrhea, chickenpox can spread in the hospital that leads to outbreaks because of picoviral contamination. And another cytomegalovirus, herpes virus, influenza, and enterovirus. All these viruses can infect the human being. Especially these cytomegalovirus and herpes viruses are more common in immunocompromised and in transplant patients, And the fungi, the most common in through water, and that is Candida albicans and Aspergillosis, that leads to pneumonia and mucormycosis. This mucormycosis is more common in diabetic patients. That leads to mucormycosis. Next, protozoa, that is Endemycin bacteria, Plasmodium, Plasma gondii, and Pneumocystis coli, that leads to pneumonia. And the mode of transmission, same. Contact, the most common route is hand or cloth, hand to hand, or hand of the staffs. Contact of the hands and clothing of the attenders also. That is from outside. Next, inanimate objects, improper like tables, everything, bronchoscopy, that is improper disinfection of the instruments like endoscope, bronchoscope, and cystoscope. The most common organism in this is Pseudomonas aureus. And airborne, that is we know droplet of the respiratory infection that leads to transmitted by inhalation, that leads to pneumonia. Dust from bedding, floor, wound exudates on the skin, that is Pseudomonas Staphylococcus aureus. And aerosols from the nebulizer, humidifier, and ventilator equipment, that leads to lesion. That is the common organism, lesion. And the oral route, hospital food may contain the antibiotic resistant bacteria that may colonize the intestine. That means in a hospital, when there is a canteen or from the hospital where the food, hospital mess, that is food where there is food, they have to maintain all precautions. That is parenteral route by syringes or needles. That means using of syringes or needles, we have to dispose immediately, because nowadays we got all disposable needles and syringes. We should not use one needle and one syringe. We have to use one needle, one syringe for one patient. We should not use one needle, one syringe for another patient. So Used needles and syringes should not be used once again. And common nosocomial infections, there are UTI, respiratory infections, wound and skin infections, and gastrointestinal infections, and bacteremia and tetanus. So coming to the UTI infection, it's almost, it constitutes 40% of the nosocomial infection, usually associated with catheterization. Catheterization under unsterile conditions and instrumentation of urethra, bladder, kidney, and under sterile. I already said the bacteria from the urethra will go back and infect bladder and kidney if you do catheterization or instrumental dilatation, for example, stricture. It leads to UTI. That is a common organism, E. coli, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, and it is more common in bedridden patients. The UTI is more common in bedridden patients. That's why we have to advise the staff members or the ICU sisters not to frequently to touch the police catheter. If they want to touch or if they want to do something with the catheter, they have to follow the universal precaution. That means they have to wear the glove and they have to dispose that glove in a proper way. Another is pneumonia, respiratory infection. There is nothing but this is more common in unconscious patients, that is in unconsciousness because of auto inhalation. That is a patient with unconsciousness, there is a micro aspirations into the lung that leads to aspiration pneumonia. And also it is common in a patient who on ventilator. And the wound and skin sepsis. Following surgical procedures where the causative agents are introduced into the skin during the operation, that is normal, that means normal commensals will introduce into the blood. If you won't clean thoroughly the wound and skin, it is more common in higher in elderly patient, manifest within the week of surgery. Some organisms can manifest within 1 to 2 days. Some organisms can manifest within 5 to 7 days. Some organisms within 10 days. Okay, non-surgical wound also due to burns, bed sores, also to get infected. That is most common with Staphylococcus aureus and there is Pseudomonas aeruginosa. In gastrointestinal infection, the most common is outbreak is diarrhea, that is food poisoning due to Salmonella or Shigella. The enterotoxin manifested due to Staphylococcus contamination cooked from outside or from the mess in the hospital may leads to GI, that is gastrointestinal infections, that is diarrhea. So bacteremia sepsis. The bacterial elimination of the bloodstream in various hospital-acquired infections through skin. That means what the bacteria means. The bacteria enter into the blood by different routes. That means through catheterization, through cannulas, through skin, through wounds. The most common organism is gram-negative bacteria. This is tetanus. There is inadequate attention to aseptic precautions during the surgery, use of contaminated dressings or improper sterilization dressing, and improper disinfection of sites of intramuscular injections. Inadequate care while cutting the umbilical cord is very important in labor room, leads to tetanus. That's why prenatal will use tetanus toxoid. Next, coming to the diagnosis. So, hospital acquired infection may occur sporadically or an outbreaks in a particular hospital or in a particular hospital in a particular department. So, diagnosed by routine bacterial methods, that is a direct smear examination, culture, and sensitivity testing. Identification, elimination requires simple from the possible source of infections as a hospital personnel and inanimate objects, water, and air. That means what it means, you have to identify the source and you have to eliminate the source. If the source is from a particular point, that a particular room or particular patient, you have to isolate him and you have to keep in an isolated ward, or if a particular room, you have to fumigate that room or you have to disinfect that room. And this is most important. This is most important. Prevention. So how will you prevent me? Administration of antibiotic therapy to carrier staff or source of patient through dextromethasone. That means we have to identify the carriers and we have to give a chemoprophylaxis for them. Proper sterilization or disinfection of inanimate objects after discharging the patient is very, very important. Disinfection of the excreta, infected material is necessary to control the exit point of infection. That means the waste material should be discarded in a proper way. That means every hospital should have a standard guidelines to dispose excreta or nominated infected material from the hospital. Transmission can be controlled by regular washing, that is universal precautions, disinfection of equipments. That is, once you have done an endoscopy for one patient, for next patient, you have to thoroughly disinfect that chemicals, and changes of working class. That means if you have attended any emergency case where there is spillage of blood on your cloth, remove that cloth and wear another dress for to look to another patient. Use of sterile dressing, surgical glove, face mask further contribute to control of nasal common infection. That is, preoperative disinfection of the patient's skin that prevent the bacteremia or septicemia. So, whenever there is hospital infection, we should properly investigate and treat the patient. So, don't blindly treat them with a higher antibiotic. This is very important to prevent the hospital-acquired infection. That is, every hospital should contain a hospital infection control committee, HICC, infection control committee. One hospital should contain HICC, and each department should contain HICC. What is this committee? In whom the committee consists means it is a committee which is made up of one doctor, one paramedical, and one staff nurse, medical and paramedical. Both have to make a committee. Every hospital should have effective hospital acquired infection control committee responsible for control of the hospital acquired infection of the drug. And that means this hospital committee should make their own protocols for every department and for every disposable of material from hospital. There is a simple representation where you have to wear the glove, wear the apron, hand wash frequently, wear the mask to prevent hospital spread of infections. And the sharps. Avoid recapping of the needles and avoid removing the needles from syringes by hand. So any sharp objects, don't try to touch them directly. So remove with wearing the glove or needling into the caps. Use the caps. Please use the sharps in the puncture resistant containers. Okay. Next, ensure clean environment. That is, what you have to do is establish policies, that is by hospital committees, to prevent the food and water contamination. Establish a committee for a regular schedule of hospital cleaning, appropriate disinfections. For example, like wards, operating theaters, and that means what you have to do is ensure the clean environment by keeping a hospital committee. Establish a regular schedule, that means weekly or quarterly or once in a month or once in 2 months. You have to make a schedule and you have to keep a record for that. And dispose of the medical wastage safely. Needles and syringes should be incinerated, and other infected waste can be incinerated or autoclaved for landfill disposal. So this is the most common source is hands. So standard safety measure to minimize the infection. So assume that all patients are potentially infectious for virus. So when you see any patients, you have to think that, you have to imagine that he is an infected material. All the blood samples or blood fluid must be placed in a leak-proof bags for a transportation of laboratory. That means again you have to take a biohazarded material, you have to keep in a proper carry bags, that is sealed carry bags, and use glove whenever you are removing the blood or whenever you are touching instruments. And if there is a chance of spattering, you have to use the mask or glasses to prevent the spattering. So wear the laboratory coats or gloves while walking in a laboratory. This should not be taken to outside. You have to remove inside the hospital and you have to dispose it. Never peptide by mouth. Missionary peptide devices should be used. So never draw the blood through mouth. There is a problem. You may scan some amount of blood, you may get infected. Decontaminate laboratory work surface with proper disinfection after spillage of blood, other body parts. That means whenever there is some spillage of blood in your laboratory or in your room or in a patient room, you follow your hospital guidelines and disinfect that room or that laboratory. Limit use of needles, syringes to situations for which there is no other alternatives. So don't overuse the needles or syringes because high chances of infection will be there. Biological safety handbook should be used for laboratory works. That is, you have to follow the national committee rules for biosafety of collecting the samples and laboratory work. All potential contaminated materials of laboratory should be decontaminated before disposable or processing. Okay. Always wash hands after completing the laboratory. That is university precaution. Remove all protective clothing before leaving laboratory. That is what that is represents in figures. So the take-home message from this class is, Sir William says that hand wash, sanitizer, and a minimum of common sense is the best way of disinfecting and preventing hospital-acquired infections. Thank you.